Welcome back to the Searley Talks Warriors podcast, proudly brought to you by the team at Ortex. Today, we're lucky enough to be joined by our skipper, Warrior number 224, Tohu Harris. Tohu, thanks for jumping on, bro.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
A good result last Friday night, a 16-12 win over the Tigers. Probably not the polished performance the lads were after, but a win's a win and an important 2 points. So what do you think were the key takeaways and work-ons from that game?
It was a bit of an ugly win, but I think obviously the positive is coming away with 2 points. It's better than the opposite, like coming away with a loss. But we sort of, there's a general feeling around the group that we're obviously not happy with the performance, and I see that as a good thing. Oftentimes getting a result can sort of overshadow like the actual performance itself. So the fact that we're not happy with our performance shows is a good sign that we know we're better. We want to get better. But coming away with the 2 points is obviously every point in this competition is valuable. So to be able to get an ugly win, that's a good start. So hopefully we can just keep improving our performances moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. And there's been some strong individual performances put out there in the first 3 games. Who out of your teammates has really stood out for you? Is there someone in particular?
Yeah, I thought the first couple of rounds, Joshy Curran really stood up, and he's had a good start to the year. Players like Adams really tried to lead the go forward through the middle. There's a few players that have sort of really stood up, but I think the key thing for us is to have those good moments or players stand up at the same time. So it's not just one or two sort of each and every week. We get more and more players having good performances together and back-to-back weeks. So that's something that we're really trying to build.
And you're still making your way back from last year's ACL injury. How's the recovery tracking? Are you back training with the boys, and when can us fans expect to see you back out there?
I've actually last week I joined the group again. Nice. And did a bit of skills with the team and ran against the NRL side. So and had another run again today. So that's been sort of nice for the mind. It's you have some dark moments in rehab, especially these long rehabs where you're one-on-one with a trainer and it's just you out there in the hot sun just slogging away, doing conditioning. So to be able to get the ball in hands and have people moving around you and going up against the NRL side, it's a really nice feeling, and it's a real confidence booster. So I think the target's still the same. It's somewhere between round 9 and round 12. But again, like this, coming into the training with the team, I've just got to keep progressing and hopefully not have any setbacks. So hopefully we can sort of go from strength to strength.
Yeah, nice. I'll take that as round 9 then. And you're 30 years old. You've had an unreal career so far. So let's run things back a little. Born in Hastings, I believe. And like most New Zealanders, You grew up playing rugby union. So how old were you when you first picked up a rugby ball?
I think I was 6 when I first picked up a rugby ball. So it was rugby union all the way through. 6 years old. My earliest memories were, playing in the dead ball area, barefoot, no positions, freezing cold morning, and your feet are freezing in the frosty grass. And one of the earliest memories is getting a sore foot from standing on a corner flag.
Yeah, well, you come a long way from there, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And you mentioned playing in the in goal. Did you have like brothers or family that played?
Yep. So I've got 3 older brothers. I'm the youngest in my family. So I was. It was always. I've never really had big dreams or a whole lot of goals or anything. But one of the, I think, biggest ones growing up was like I really wanted to play alongside my brothers for our club team, Tamantia, and was lucky enough to do that before I moved from Hastings to Melbourne. So when I was about 15 or 16, I was able to play for our men's side and played alongside my brothers, which is pretty cool experience. We got a photo of it, so it's one of my favorite photos.
Yeah, that's unreal. And how did you make the transition over from rugby to league, bro?
I played so mostly union, but there was little bits of rugby league here and there, and and the league in Hawke's Bay isn't very strong or structured, I should say. The people who love league in Hawke's Bay are very passionate about it, but there's not a whole heap of structure or anything like that. So or opportunities really. So I was pretty fortunate. I was pretty fortunate that I had a school teacher who played for Central Falcons team. I think he played alongside Russell Packer when he was there, but their coach David Lomax sort of had a relationship with him where he sort of helped, I guess, communicate any opportunities that came up for different teams or different camps. So he was the one that sort of let us know about the Melbourne Storm camp that I went to. I think it might have been 2007 or 2008, and was fortunate enough to be chosen for a scholarship from that camp, and that really sort of was where it really took off from there.
Yeah, that's unreal. And you mentioned it took off. You played 2 seasons in the NYC comp and then made your NRL debut in 2013 against the Dragons. Must have been a pretty special occasion for you. What do you remember about that game?
I still remember that time pretty vividly. Like I played my very first game in the World Club Challenge over in England.
So try too, right?
It was pretty lucky to be on the end of something, but so I remember that time very clearly because we played in -3 degrees over in England, and then 2 weeks later we played round 1 and it was about 40 degrees in Melbourne against St. George, and then I think round 2 was was in North Queensland, so it was hot. It was like 30 something degrees and it was just, you couldn't breathe because of the humidity. And then round 3 was the grand final rematch. So I remember that month pretty clearly because it was, every week was just non-stop intensity. So yeah, it's had a bit of a rough start. It was an enjoyable start. I think we went pretty well through that time, but yeah, it was a tough start.
Heck of a welcome to the NRL. And then that year was also got even bigger for you. You made your Kiwis debut that year in the Anzac Test. Doesn't get much bigger in terms of a game to debut. So how was that occasion?
Yeah, it was a pretty strange week, to be honest, because I originally wasn't selected in it. And then I think there was one injury and I think Jeremy Smith got suspended really late. So then I came into the squad as 18th man, and then day before the game, Simon Manring got ruled out with a calf injury. So then I got pulled into the 17. So it was like a lot of things happened before I was able to, come into the 17. But yeah, again, it was -3 degrees in Canberra as well, and so I remember it fondly as well.
That's awesome. And you had plenty of success over your time at the Storm. Finished runner-up in 2016, win one better the year after in 17. How was that feeling, winning the grand final? Because I can imagine that would be something pretty surreal.
Yeah, no, it was pretty surreal. It's one of those moments that that sort of ingrained in your mind that you never forget, and just like a whole lot of relief too, because there's a whole lot of work throughout preseason, throughout the season, so many games that goes into that moment. So to be able to finish the year, and especially with the disappointment of the year before, to be able to go out at 2017 against the Cowboys and play well and have a good game against them and then come out on top was it was a pretty surreal moment and very memorable.
And how was it training and playing alongside every week alongside the likes of Cam Smith, Billy Slater, Cooper Cronk, some true legends of the game?
Yeah, again, I have to pinch myself sometimes that I was lucky enough to play alongside them, and even now, like when you see them, it's you're on first name basis, and you sort of have those memories together, especially when you are a part of a team that wins a competition with them. It's pretty sort of special to be a part of that, especially with guys like with that kind of standing in the game. It's we everywhere we go, we always get asked about them, and to be able to sort of say that I played alongside them and had shared memories together with those guys is pretty surreal.
And final Storm question, but you can't talk the Melbourne Storm without Craig Bellamy. Just coached his 500th game the other day. Do you have a favourite Bellamy moment or story you can share with us?
It's not. It's funny. I got asked that before his 500th game, and there's not sort of one moment that sticks out. There's a number of different moments, and I think the things that stick out to me is his little habits or little things that he does when he is angry. So like oftentimes when you come into the sheds and you know he's going to be angry, and he's just pacing and just the heavy breathing as you walk past him, and something's coming when he does start talking. Just little things like when he does speak when he's angry, like the spit that comes out, and it's little things like that I remember. And at the time, you sort of you can hear a pin drop, and he's just going for it. But when I think back on it, those are the moments that sort of make me laugh and like a smile about when I think of moments that he has like that. So yeah, they're pretty funny moments to think back on.
He's one of a kind, that's for sure. And then following that 2017 season, you actually signed with the Warriors, a massive signing for the club. So what appealed to you about joining the Warriors?
There's a few reasons. Spending obviously, I think it was maybe 8 years in Melbourne, away from my family. We were with my wife's family in Melbourne, which was it was awesome, and it made being away from my home a hell of a lot easier. But we wanted to sort of experience living in New Zealand. My son to experience living in New Zealand, and also professionally was to challenge myself. I found obviously with all the amount of experience at the Storm, they've got Craig there, they've got those special players that you mentioned before, and other guys coming up, that I found myself, I was sort of just naturally just sitting back and allowing those guys to speak, and I wasn't sort of pushing myself to progress. So challenging myself was a big part of coming to the Warriors, and it sort of forced myself to speak and draw on my experiences and try and help other people become better players. I think that kind of challenge was really appealing.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you've now clocked up 65 games for the club so far. Is there one in particular that stands out for you in a Warriors jersey?
One in particular, it's pretty tough to put my finger on. I think there's probably not one game in particular, but there's my first season here when really enjoyed the first season that I had at the Warriors, when playing on the edge with obviously Sean, Petahiku and David Fusatua. I think we had some pretty cool moments throughout that season, where at times it felt like we were pretty, we could sort of do whatever we wanted against any side in the comp. So I think when you sort of get into rhythm like that, when you get combinations like that, that always feels pretty special.
Nice. And you had huge seasons in 2020 and 2021, winning back-to-back Simon Mannering Awards for the best player in the club. That's pretty unreal achievement, and no doubt one you're pretty proud of.
Yeah. Again, it's especially for who the award's named after. That I think that in itself is pretty special to be put in the same sort of bracket as Simon. He's the things that he's done for the club, that he's done for New Zealand Rugby League, they're huge, and just what he stands for as a player, just the amount of work that he's put in. So to be sort of named alongside or in that sort of bracket, and especially with the players we've won in the past, like, you know, obviously how special a player Rog was, and, you know, Ben Matalino, and then you go back further like Steve Price, Ruben Wiki, like all those guys. It's you know, a pretty special group to be named a part of.
You mentioned Roger there, but you were named in the off season as the official captain for this year after Roger moved on. So how did it feel being named as skipper? Was that a role that you wanted to secure for this year?
It's funny. It wasn't a role like it never sort of was a role that I had thought about until obviously Rog made the call on his career, because obviously he was undoubtedly the leader of our club, and so when he sort of made that call, then it sort of you had to naturally start thinking about that, but it wasn't something that I thought of lightly, and I thought if I were to take on the role, that I've really got to put my best foot forward and make sure that I'm doing justice for the role. So working as hard as I can to build something here, or to put things in place. So hopefully I've been doing that. But again, it's every day's a work in progress, and I'm lucky that I've got a good support group around me, a good leadership group around me, that we trust each other. We're constantly communicating with each other. So it's I'm not there standing up there on my own. There's a good core group of us that lean on each other.
Yeah, nice. And speaking to some of the new boys like Ash and Aaron Penne in the previous weeks, they mentioned the team's focus around heritage and culture, which has been awesome to hear, especially with you guys being based away from New Zealand for so long. So being of Māori descent yourself, is that something you guys wanted to push this season?
Yeah. One sort of glaring thing that we sort of identified as a club. So CEO Cameron George had spoken to me about was this club having an identity and having a connection to where we come from. So building that has been a huge part of obviously the off season and through the preseason, and finding different ways how it relates to us on the field as well. So we've got a number of guys that haven't set foot in New Zealand. They haven't had that, but we're trying to build a connection to New Zealand for those guys, so they can sort of feel where we come from, where what it's like for us as Māoris or even Pacific Islanders. So it's it's something that we're continuously working on, something that we've worked really hard on throughout this off season and preseason to put in place.
Great to hear. And with the border restrictions easing over here, it's been confirmed that the boys will finally play back at Mount Smart against the Tigers July 3rd. How excited are you and the rest of the squad to finally head back and play at home for the first time in exactly 1,038 days? Not that anyone's counting, but...
Honestly, well, we can't wait. It's, there's as soon as the border announcements were made, we had people sort of asking if we could go back straight away, but obviously we're very fortunate for the places that we have lived in, and the amount of care that's been put in place for us. But home's home, and every single person in this club is looking forward to getting back to Mount Smart and running out on that field again, and hearing the crowd. That's a big sort of driving factor for us is our loyal support base that haven't been able to watch any live games, any rugby league live, and being able to run out in front of those guys is going to be a pretty special moment.
We'll be there, surely a full house. And then in terms of personal goals, what are your goals for the 2022 season, bro? What would you like to achieve this year?
I don't have any sort of personal goals for myself, but obviously with all the things that we put in place, the culture and heritage stuff, is my goal is to drive that and have that as a big driving factor of the club's success. I know, like people viewed success very differently, but what it looks like for me is obviously the pride that people have in their own cultures. We're showing that for the club, so instilling pride back into this club, into this jersey, showing that we care about it, showing that we care for each other, and oftentimes when a team cares about each other and they show that care, they go out there and they put it all on the line. That's, oftentimes that's when you get success on the board. But I think having something to care about and having that drive is what's got to come first. So my goals is to help drive that.
You're getting me fired up just listening. That's awesome. And finally, before we get into the quick fire stuff, I need to ask you this because it's come up a fair few times when talking to the other boys. Your music taste. You've copped a fair bit of heat on here for being the last guy that the lads want on the aux cord. So what's the deal here, bro? Because it's been mentioned Christmas carols in the gym. Shawnee and the boys, they weren't happy. What's the go?
Well, that makes me happy to hear that they're complaining about it. I'm in the middle of a 9-month rehab, so me looking for any sort of win I can get or any sort of enjoyment I can get. So if that's me getting on the music in the gym and forcing them to listen to Christmas carols right through December, then I'm going to do it. Because if that gets me up, then I'm doing it. It was a very enjoyable month. Just seeing the pain on their faces when they had to, in the middle of a hour-long sort of conditioning session, and there's people like Michael Bublé or Mariah Carey singing, and they weren't happy, but it put a smile on my face.
That's bloody good. And some of the quick fire ones, your top 3 players you enjoy watching in the NRL at the moment.
Top 3 players. I'm going to give guys rapid. Everyone goes for the exciting sort of fullbacks or whatever it is. I'm going to say Jazz Tevanga. So players like that. So Jazz Tevanga, Dale Finucane, and who's another? I'm going to give my mate Peter Hiku a rap.
Nice. A few of the workhorses. I like it. And favorite things to do outside of footy, mate? When you're not training, what do you like to do?
There's a few things. We've got a bit of a gaming crew. So we usually sort of playing Call of Duty. A group of us doing that during the night. Other than that, like reading books or building Legos with my son.
That's awesome. That's really good. And if you could play for any other professional sports team in the world, bro, who would it be?
Green Bay Packers.
Oh, Aaron Rodgers, man.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have been happy with that trade, eh? You wouldn't have been happy with that trade.
Got to see what the long-term plan is. I don't know what they're thinking, but
that's what it is.
It hurt.
And what's your go-to post-game feed or like cheat meal if you feel like you've earned something a bit different?
My ones are I guess it's probably a daily thing, but I eat a whole lot of chocolate. It's a proper addiction that I need to probably address, but chocolate's my go-to.
You're
one thing alone. That actually Reese he got put onto from someone who got mentioned earlier. Reese got told about it, but there was a particular cheesecake brownie that I used to get. He got told from one of my ex-teammates about it to ask me about it, but that brought back some good memories.
That's good stuff. And then run it straight challenge, bro. You have to run it straight at one other guy in your team. Who's the last person you'd want to run it at?
I'm going to say Jazz because he tackles with his legs, trips people up.
Dirty, eh?
He's a grub.
And some 3 quick listener questions. First one comes through from Reese Kimber, and he says, what's your thoughts on the young edge forwards coming through the system at the moment? Are there a couple in particular that have impressed you at the club?
Yeah, obviously, there's a few exciting edge forwards. Like I mentioned, Joshy before. Ali Katoa he's very, very raw. He hasn't got much experience in rugby league, but he's shown a lot of promise. But there's guys like Jacob Laban, who's 17 years old. He's come over and he's training with us, and he's really doing well, and he's got a big future ahead of him. He's a hardworking guy who's got all the physical attributes, so he's going to be exciting in the future. One
to watch. And Dan Shaw says, who's your favourite teammate, past or present, that you've played with?
That's a hard one. Well, there's that one's really hard. There's guys, obviously, the go-to guys are like the big 3. There's players like here at the Warriors, like Rog and Sean, and I played with Simon and things like that before. But but it's a real sort of understated players that you really enjoy playing with. So like a guy like Ryan Hinchcliffe, who played at the Melbourne Storm, it was really good to play with him because he did a lot of the things that you don't see, but they really helped his teammates. So there's guys like that. Jazz has a bit of that in him when he's really focused, and so it's guys like that teammates love playing with those guys because they put their body on the line for you, and it makes your job easier.
And last one from Tyler Jones, and he said, did you have a favourite Warriors player growing up?
Favourite Warriors player? I didn't watch a whole lot of league. Obviously, I grew up watching rugby union, and then when I did start watching rugby league, it was when I got the scholarship to go to the Melbourne Storm. So when I watched it, I was watching the Storm, but during that time, I got to see the 08 finals where the Warriors beat the Storm. So like and during that season, there was, I think Wade McKinnon had a really good season. So I liked seeing him play. And obviously, Simon, he's an easy one to choose. But yeah, because I only started watching sort of rugby league around that time, around that 08, 09 season, and Wade McKinnon was really good to watch then.
I wouldn't have picked that. That's awesome. Cheers for jumping on the podcast, bro. Been unreal to have you on, and looking forward to seeing you lead the boys onto the field later on this season. So thanks for your time, and all the best for the weeks ahead.
No worries. Thanks for having me.